Oh no, I was just doing this as a placeholder. I'm gonna. I'm actually, you know what I'll do? I'll just set these up in order. It's an interesting vibe. It's very Zelda coded.
Really?
You don't think so?
Oh no, it's just a space. What makes it Zelda code?
Just like the farmers, the nice ambient music.
That's true. Is Zelda coming this year?
I have no idea.
Hello.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Um. Yo, yo, yo.
Yes, first time. Yeah, Zach's been a fan for a very long time. Why, we're waiting for Zelda from
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for joining for another great talk as a part of World Building Week. Feel free to move up closer to the front if you'd like. Really excited for this presentation today. We have the founders of Atom.new. They're going to be talking about how they are changing the CAD industry with AI. So really thrilled. I'll hand it over to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm Zach, here with Aaron, my co-founder. And yeah, I think we're just going to walk you through sort of our journey building an AI in CAD and show you a few demos. And I'll start with, I have a bunch of sort of Twitter posts we have that kind of chart out sort of our journey as a company, but also quite interestingly, I think the journey of how technology has sort of progressed in the last year or so. So when we started about a year ago, we kind of realized that you're able to generate physical models with AI, and it was very much with sort of a sort of code gen approach, which then generates code that compiles to a 3D model. And so, yeah, I'll just show you basically our first launch video that we put on Twitter. It kind of sets out the sort of vision of the company quite well. So I'll put it on. I don't know if you can hear the sound, but we'll give it a go. Huh? Cheers. Thank you.
It's this way.
I got it. All right. So that was about a year ago, and it was basically just where we just generate these very simple things. So as you can see, like a Raspberry Pi case, even printed like a little jewelry pendant, and it's kind of where we were then. And so that's kind of where we started. It was very consumer, very focused around sort of generating these very easy 3D printable models for people who didn't really know how to CAD. So that was our initial audience. But what we found is actually in the last year, a lot of these models have progressed to the point where they're now integrating and being powerful enough to work into actual professional engineering workflows. And the key thing here, what has changed, is basically last year, the models had very little sort of spatial reasoning or visual reasoning capabilities. And interestingly enough, we talk a lot with the big labs out in SF, so Anthropic, OpenAI, and they've been sort of training a lot on visual reasoning. So things like training on maps, post-training on maps, even CAD to some degree. And now the models can see, which has been pretty transformative. Capability sort of progress in the model. So I'll show you quickly a demo of we've sort of plugged in the underlying technology that we use there and now integrating it into existing CAD applications. So this is the first sort of transformative model that we saw this year, which was Anthropic's Opus 4.7, which was a newly pre-trained model. And we basically hooked it up into Onshape, which is sort of a professional CAD tool that's browser-based. And essentially, here you can see it essentially operating the CAD tool and using the same features a human would do. So similarly, creating a Raspberry Pi case, but building it feature by feature. So creating the sketches, the extrusions, and sort of working it through like a human would do here. And what is pretty crazy is only a couple months later, so Fable came out, I think, last week. Obviously, it's been recalled. But for us, I think it was a pretty transformative experience in terms of we haven't seen a model be able to do anything like it before. And so we plugged it into Autodesk Fusion, which is one of the providers we integrate with, and in a single prompt, we're able to generate this, which just goes to show like the progress in just over a few months' time in these models. And it's pretty much through that same sort of aspect. So you know how I talked about at the start how these models can generate code? So the CAD by a Python script that you can see on the right. And then all the model needs to do to sort of iterate on that is basically just take screenshots of the CAD and iterate on the model. So in a single prompt, it can go through, generate a Python script, generate the geometry, take screenshots of the geometry, see if it's good, and just run in an agentic loop until it creates the finalized CAD model. And so, you know, we're incredibly excited because we can see the sort of trajectory on model-to-model releases, and it's getting to the point where, as you saw last year, is very much to now we have you know, a good few companies using our tools now to actually use AI to build real mechanical design work. And so yeah, I'll pass to live of something new we're working on. Things may break, but that's part of the experience, and yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna use over there.
Okay.
No, fine. Okay. So, you know, the thing that Zach was kind of showing you guys earlier was essentially us thinking about how we can connect all of these state-of-the-art AI models into the existing CAD programs. But, you know, the industry kind of has slowly shifted towards giving the models more and more power. And we're thinking, well, what if we enhance the harness to the point where it has capabilities of like a regular human, right? Where, you know, when a real engineer is trying to engineer something, it's also going to look up things online, it's going to read Excel documents, and kind of connect to a lot of the information even outside of the CAD application. So going to launch in a few days that we're showing here, essentially is that. And just to give you guys a quick sense of the type of things it can do, because of the harness is so much more powerful now that it has the ability to do very long tail reasoning and think for a very long time, it's actually able to procedurally generate much more complicated assemblies like the one I'm showing here. You know, this is just an example of me telling, hey, you know, go into Fusion where we have this desktop app connector talking to the application, and just say, you know, build a planetary gearbox with, you know, involute gears and make sure they mesh properly. And then, you know, hey, use this thing and turn it into a handheld fan just for, you know, just for fun. And, you know, I think in the previous iterations of this, even within the ones where it lives natively inside the CAD application, it would take quite a few prompts and steps for this to be really a viable thing. But, you know, here, I literally just prompted this before the demo. It was able to do this essentially in 3 prompts, right? And I'm just gonna scroll down and give you guys a quick demo of like its ability to spatial reason. I'm gonna twist this here, and you can see all the inner mechanical of the fan itself is actually fully functional. You see the gears properly mesh and the fan's turning. And the really cool thing here is that because it's operating inside a medium that we can also use, we can actually also edit the file the way that, you know, a humanly would, where it's like you can click something, you know, extrude, make things longer, and all of that is entirely possible. Just a quick demo here. Yeah, so this is an entirely editable file that, you know, it can go both ways, right? I can vibe CAD it, but also if I want to fine tune something, I totally can. So yeah, so you know, just to recreate this project a little bit, I'm actually going to do the same thing and just see, give you guys a live demo of it actually building the gearbox. You know, it's really just simple. All I'm going to do say here is just, hey, go into Fusion and build a planetary gearbox within gears. And, you know, just like a human would, instead of initially just go straight to building CAD, it's actually going to look up some, you know, user manual, and this is kind of the harness we're talking about, where we gave it a lot of ability to reason like an engineer, right? Like a regular engineer, when it's building something, would probably read some sort of handbook, and similarly here, you know, it's thinking about tools and ways it could reason through the CAD application. I'm just going to expand the thinking here, just so you guys get more sense of like how it's thinking about things. Zach, is there anything you want to add?
I mean, we've gone through a lot. I mean, feel free if you guys have any questions while it sort of generates live. You seem confused on the right. That's why.
No, I need my glasses. I'm still squinting. Is
Yep, go ahead and then I'll get to you. Yep.
sorry, is this like a plugin for Autodesk or?
So we have two products. The one that we showed you in the video was a plugin, but this new one actually is a full-fledged desktop class web application. So it has an extension to talk to Fusion, but the real power is you can connect it to all these other apps, right? So say if you use Notion for your parts catalog or brainstorm a lot of your ideas in there, you can connect that and then push it into Fusion. So it creates a much more fully fledged workflow. And because this is a 24-hour agent system, it actually runs all the time. So say if you're editing a file inside your CAD application, it's like, hey, monitor my file and upload some or update some like material list as I edit it, it will just automatically run in the background. So in which case, in some cases, actually, it is replacing a lot of like industry standard connector tools, just because the agent is actually doing this. Yeah.
Can anybody use it? We actually have a 3D printer in our makerspace. I'm wondering, like, can the Edge community use this?
Yeah, 100%. We can talk afterwards about getting something where we give some Edge people a bunch of free credits to just hammer it home. So yeah, for sure, for sure. In the back, you had a question.
Between the design that's generated and it being like in your hands tangibly,
Yeah.
What have you guys found is still like the missing pieces?
I think it really depends. In terms of 3D printing, it's pretty much there where you could sort of download the STL or the step file and just whack it on a 3D printer. The good thing with our general agent harness is kind of like what Aaron mentioned, is it goes beyond like sort of the model's own ability to sort of understand what's manufacturable, find standard parts, and but we've built all of this reasoning into the model, so it has some ability to do DFM checks, even can check for sliceability in your printer before you actually go ahead and put it away and put it to print. But yeah, and some of these connectors we're even going to build more of. So for example, like integrations into things like send cut send and things like that, so you can manufacture them straight away through the application. So yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, like for example, the Fusion connector has been super helpful with Claude.
Yeah.
But like for this example you have on screen, you may not want to be like 3D printing gears, right?
Yeah, 100%.
They will like break, and from experience, having some ground truth on what McMaster actually has, or all these other part manufacturers have been helpful in grounding.
So this is the interesting part why we ended up deciding to build this more fully fledged agentic system, is that the desktop app actually has all the functions and capabilities that human would. So say if you want to ground your designs to McMaster, you can just paste the link of your parts catalog and say, hey, go browse this, figure out the specifications and the geometry, and can actually download the step file or whatever file format in there and inspect it the way that we would. The old approach in our previous products, it didn't have that, right? So now the context is expanded, it's just exploding with, the examples that you're mentioning.
I have a question. Are you guys at all familiar with Prometheus, the startup that Jeff Bezos is now working on?
Yes.
Could you perhaps give us some insight into that and kind of like what are the downstream effects of like accelerating hardware engineering?
Yeah, so I can talk as much as you guys can, because obviously not too much has come out. I would say from what I've read, it would appear to me that their thesis is wrong. But I like it. To give you some context, I think like I worked at a company before called Adept, where we raised a lot of money, I think like $200 million, to raise a foundation model to do browser use and do actions in the browser. And we found that eventually, despite raising a lot of money and training this very domain-specific model, eventually the next Claude and next GPT releases just got better at the specific tasks that we trained on. And so I've read a little bit about what Prometheus are doing. Like they're training their own artificial general engineer, and they're going to be training on far more than just like, general text tokens like many of the big labs are, but they're more training on, parts and things like that. But it seems to me that it feels very analogous to sort of that example that I mentioned for myself. Like eventually the more general model will be able to generalize more and then be better at the task. So I actually think you can get a whole lot done with just using the best models and integrating them into the current workflows. And that's what we've seen. I mean, you can see the examples we've shown on X. Like if you see just the examples from, let's say Claude Sonnet 3.5 or 4 a year ago to Fable 5, it's completely night and day. And I don't imagine that will change. I don't think Claude Fable 7 versus a new Prometheus model. I think just the more powerful general model will sort of be better at the task in general. And I think history has proven that.
What do you think are some of the downstream effects of like this technology, like lowering the cost of CAD modeling? Like will that result in just sort of a Cambrian explosion of like maybe engineering unlocks and like just improved efficiency of mechanical systems or anything like that?
I think what's really cool is with what AI agents have done to software engineering is kind of like this like repeatable thing that may happen in a somewhat analogous space in mechanical. So you will see like an explosion of like now you're seeing this explosion of sort of vibe coded apps and things like that, and the explosion of companies going from autocomplete to a small amount of the code that they write to all of the code that they write. And I envision that we will see the same thing in mechanical engineering, where slowly it will automate more and more until we have AI agents doing a lot of the design work for us. But similarly, I think it will lower the barrier to sort of creating CAD models that a lot of more people will design. The other hand is obviously you have the bottleneck of obviously manufacturing, which means that you can't just like ship and deploy something straight away like you can with modeling. But definitely we'll see more and more designs be created, which I think is something we're pretty excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are multiple ways to think about this. Right? I think when we first started the company, a lot of people were saying, oh, hey, 3D printing has been taking off, and a lot of people have the concept of like personal manufacturing. You can just like build your own things at home. But then at the time, a big bottleneck was really just like people can't, not everyone is professionally trained to CAD, right? Therefore, even when you have an idea, it's really hard to translate it into a physical form. So, this kind of solves the other half of that equation. So I definitely see also more and more people having this literacy of being able to build things spatially. Just like how now, vibe coding apps is kind of a default first class thing for all the applications. Like, you talk to anybody, they can vibe code apps. I think in the future, people can just say something and speak it into existence. Yeah, it'll definitely mirror on that end, I think.
How is system design different between software and mechanical engineering from your experience?
That's a good question. I think there are a lot more similarities than differences, and I think it's something where we're learning more and more as we go to sort of this code approach to CAD, which is now we have agents where they'll essentially generate the CAD through code, view it through screenshots, just like maybe I'd view a UI like a human would. And even, we've had agents we plug in that can run, simulations entirely through code and chain them all together. And so, yeah, but like obviously things like, having to think about manufacturing, but you could argue that's the same to deploying production code to lots of users. But I think we're finding more and more as we build this, there are more and more similarities than we thought. But yeah, I'll just add, just as we're waiting for this and as you guys think of questions, I think it's really exciting, especially that you guys have the 3D printers here. And I think it's very much how we started as a company. Like when I showed the first demo of us showing it out, it was very much just people with 3D printers at home just using us to sort of make things. And a lot of the very first users we onboarded were, local makerspaces in the Bay Area, people who had just begun doing CAD work, students, things of that nature. And sort of like you mentioned of sort of how mechanical design will change in the future, I think we'll see more and more of that sort of, vibe CADing, if you will, people being able to generate things, print them easily. Printers are getting cheaper and easier to use as well. And I think that's exciting. But yeah. So it would be interesting to know actually how many people here do any CAD work in the back. Okay. How does this make you guys feel? Because we know, having talked to engineers, people have very polarizing opinions.
I tested you guys last year when you guys first came out, and had like a lot of friction. So this is an amazing leap from where you guys were a year ago. Like, it's astonishing to get that kind of gear rotation and have it understand the principles underneath it.
Yeah.
I mean, is phenomenal. The next kind of leap I start to ask is like, what about fabbing other things like circuit boards, or other types? Have you thought like in that direction about kind of completing the loop between hardware manufacturing and electronics, or making that jump?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, and yeah, thank you for trying us early. I'll be the first to admit that when we first launched, the product was very early, and so yeah. But I think a big thing we're a very small team. We're 4 people, and so we've mainly been focused on mechanical CAD and actually getting the models to reason well in 3D and sort of generate geometry before even going into ECAD or anything else. But that's definitely something we're thinking of eventually going into. And what we found with this general agent harness, where you can connect it to other tools, even like KiCad or different tools of that nature, is it can go into those realms. I think over time we'll look to close the loop more and more. But for now, it's very much, I would still regard this, as much as we've made progress, it's very much an unsolved problem. And, we're working and kind of right on just sort of tracing that exponential up to get better and better at this task, to the point where we think that basically by the start of 2027, it's going to look a lot like how we're interacting with agents to build software today. And I think if you trace the exponential, I think it's not, too hard to imagine that. So.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the motivation where we're building this new thing, is that, mechanical engineering is also outside of CAD, right? So we want to connect all of your surfaces and make it really a full-fledged workflow the way that existing software engineers do. So, yeah.
Anybody else have any?
Do you think the frontier labs like Anthropic would do something like build something similar to this?
No, I think the frontier labs are coming to, grow as horizontally as they can. Codex can now build sites, and they're going after like the AI app builders. I think, they'll eventually want to, like every company, want to grow as big as they possibly can. I think what is quite nice for us, and is generally seen in startups in general, is we can focus on a lot of the things that they just don't have the bandwidth to, which is we can be very high touch point with, engineering teams. We can build a lot of the custom integrations that they can't. So, Onshape Fusion, once we release this publicly, it'll also integrate with SolidWorks as well. We've connected to some of the PLM tools that some of our customers use, like Arena. So these are things that are just going to be basically out of scope for the big model providers. But we actually think we want them to care about this, right? I think last year, there were points where we felt a little bit like, it's a new model release and it's not that much better at our task. But we found that through ongoing conversations with the labs, this is something they care more and more about. I think software engineering, especially benchmarks, are getting saturated, and so they're caring more and more about different sort of benchmarks in which they can improve their models, and CAD is definitely one of them. And we know there's appetite from the big model providers to improve at the task, and that's only going to be good for us.
Engineer friends are like not thinking about this at all. So I think if there's if the Frontier Labs like rolled something out in this space, then it would get a lot of people talking about it and probably draw a lot of attention towards your product. And is it mainly like B2B you guys are selling?
We're going more B2B now, but we have historically been more of a consumer company just because of the technology. To be frank, like up until maybe like Fable 5 last week, or maybe some of the recent models, I wouldn't say we were really there where we could be extremely useful day to day in for engineers, but we were very much there for people who wanted to, didn't have much CAD experience, wanted to vibe CAD, create something, 3D print something, manufacture it. But now more and more going into engineering teams, and we're very excited about that.
I follow up.
Yeah.
In regards to like industrial design,
Yep.
so like on the more like visualization is like really important. So just curious, like, is there a through line from someone designing something, generating at a like Mid-Journey or something, and then bringing that into? I saw that you can take in Excel and stuff like that, but like visualization and then translating that into CAD.
Yeah, 100%. Maybe we could probably switch tabs and even show like some of the cool keyboard stuff. But like so in this harness that we developed, we're connecting to basically a lot of different model providers at once to provide a lot of the different experiences. So whilst we're focusing mainly on generating CAD here, actually within that you'll be able to do a whole lot of different mediums connected to your CAD. So one of those being that you can actually pull the data in from your CAD and use it to create renderings, and even animated videos, things of that nature. We've even had companies use it to pull data in from their CAD and use it to create slides for design review, sales marketing brochures. So yeah, maybe we can. Do you think we could show something, or yeah, we'll pull it up. But yeah. But it's quite exciting. Well, once you move beyond just generating the CAD, you can actually, like we mentioned, like we have connections to Sheets, Notion, things of that nature. So you can actually go from like pulling data from your CAD and using it to generate your BOM. Since it's connected to the browser, it can source parts for you live 24/7, flag you of price changes. So there's a lot of exciting features once you connect some of these models to your engineering tools.
I need to turn the local dev server on, so keep talking.
Never mind then. But yeah, for any of the new people who arrived, is there any context you're missing, or all good?
That's awesome.
Oh, cheers. Oh yeah, 100%. When is the makerspace thing?
It's all week.
Okay. What time?
Maybe we can send out a blast. But basically, the TLDR is that if you want to potentially use the software in the makerspace to maybe start jamming on some of your own creations, we'll send a blast as to when and how you can do that.
Yeah, we'll do that. So what we'll do, we'll head to the makerspace and onboard any of you guys. We'll chat in Telegram, and we'll create a code specifically for Edge City folks, so you can have fun playing around with it, use some of the 3D printers, and we're really excited to see what you guys can generate. And thanks so much for chatting with us and listening to us speak. So thank you guys.